Thank you ever so much. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Dorking is kind of a really important place when it comes to dinosaurs in Britain. And I don't know if any of you know this. I know some of you in the audience know this because I've talked to you about it in the past. But there's an incredibly important discovery that was made here or very close to here. And that's one of the things I'll talk briefly about this evening, and certainly it'll be part of what the exhibition will be about going forward from next week. A decade of Spinosaurids in the UK, a centre for a golden age of Spinosaurid research. I would be disingenuous to say that I've done all of this work. What it is as you become an academic and you move up the scale, you stop doing so much and you pass it over to other people. And so all these wonderful people come in and they do all the things you really want to do, but you just get to supervise them and agree with them, or and so I would be remiss if I didn't say right at the start that a massive amount of this work was done by Chris Barker, who got his PhD a couple of years ago, working on the material that I'm going to present now. So, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Spinosaurs. I'm going to ask you to do something as well. You're going to get involved in this, okay? There's going to be audience participation. I'm very fortunate. I'm a university. I'm an associate professor in Southampton. I have students who come to my classes because I learn their names and I interact with them. I have students who then stop coming to my classes because they worry that I might speak to them. And you will notice as well, I was saying a moment ago that the front row is empty. I was at a conference a month ago, and again, it was academics, and they all sat at the back. They didn't sit at the front, and they all talked. So I know you won't be doing that. But we're going to give you a brief introduction about Spinosaurs and why they are peculiar. I'm going to talk to you about the Isle of Wight and the importance of it. New species. I'm going to talk about the sensory abilities of these animals. These animals are 125 million years old, and I can tell you how they smelt. Terrible. No, but I can tell you this, okay? We know about their sensory capabilities. We know how good their sight was. We know how good their sort of facial sensitivity was. We understand all of this, or at least what we can do is we can compare it between different groups of dinosaurs and say which were better and which were worse, etc., etc. And maybe these weird dinosaurs had to have special sensory capabilities. I'm going to talk about theropod dinosaurs and their diversity in the south of England. We like iguanodons, we like the long-necked things, we like triceratops, but they're the herbivorous dinosaurs. They're not the ones we're worried about in Jurassic Park. No, the ones we're worried about, the ones that people are excited about, are the velociraptors, the T-Rexes, the theropods, the exciting ones, which still are alive today and still make up the largest group of terrestrial tetrapods, vertebrates with 4 limbs. The birds, there are 11,000 species of birds. There are only 5,000 species of mammals. We're having a greater effect on the environment, I think you'll agree, and not necessarily in a good way. But the most speciose group of tetrapods are birds, and birds are theropod dinosaurs. That's fun. Did you know that? Who knew that? Yeah, excellent, good. We're talking. I'm amongst friends. I'm then going to talk about and do some phylogenetic shenanigans and have a little joke, because I want to show you how our language is important and how actually classification is important and how we group animals. Okay. And then I'm going to make a hint about something that's going on starting next week. So, Spinosaurs, what are they? Where did dinosaurs live? Give me some places that dinosaurs, I don't mean Surrey. I mean, what sort of environments do dinosaurs live in? Pardon? Dinosaurs, where do dinosaurs live? What? Thank you. Spot on. Dinosaurs are land reptiles. So if you say, "Oh, that one looks like the Loch Ness monster," you're talking about a plesiosaur. Okay, plesiosaurs are not dinosaurs. If you are interested in the Dorset pliosaur, the Kimmeridge pliosaur, that's another marine reptile. It's not a dinosaur. Pterosaurs flapping around here being eaten by this Spinosaur, not dinosaurs. Closest group to dinosaurs that aren't dinosaurs. Pterosaurs plus dinosaurs, Ornithodira. but pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are terrestrial animals that go from Triceratops all the way round to modern birds. Okay, if your phylogenetic bracket is the last common ancestor of Triceratops and modern birds, you are a dinosaur. Anything outside of that, not a dinosaur. Mesozoic marine reptile, still very cool, very exciting. Mesozoic flying reptile, very cool, but not dinosaurs. Dinosaurs do not go in the water. They are not aquatic. So why have you got a picture? Yeah, because sometimes they are. There are always exceptions to rules. The rules are dinosaurs are terrestrial, but Spinosaurs are weird. Okay. And when they were first being discovered and described and fossils were popping up, and for the last 200 years, as long as people have been finding fossils, certainly in the areas around here, they've been finding these weird crocodile teeth. Okay, and this, is, for all intents and purposes, is a crocodile tooth. We'll ignore the carina on the back there. You know, we're looking at the back of the tooth here, so the curved back and the front. On the back and the front, they've got these little tiny serrations. Okay, the carinae. Crocodiles don't have those, but otherwise, it pretty much is a crocodile tooth, and that's what they've ended up as in museum collections and sitting in cabinets and cupboards all over the place. I'll tell you some exciting stuff about those in a moment, but when these first came out of the ground, these aren't dinosaur teeth. Dinosaurs have, you know, if they're carnivores, they have blade-like teeth. T-Rex has a blooming great tooth like a steak knife for exactly the same reason that a steak knife is a steak knife, because it's got to cut through delicious Triceratops steaks. Okay, these don't look like dinosaur teeth, but they are. 1915 in Egypt, Ernst Stromer is a German paleontologist. He's touring around North Africa. He's looking at for exciting specimens, and he comes across these weird vertebrae with long spines coming off the back. Okay, Spinosaurus means spined lizard, spined reptile. Okay, this is a reconstruction from 1936, and you can see basically what they've done is they've taken a general theropod dinosaur and they've made a general it looks a bit like T-Rex for all intents and purposes, extra fingers, but apart from that, it's T-Rex with some long spines on its back. That's okay, it's 1936, it's the first time it's been discovered. We can't expect people to get things right now, and I don't expect anything that I'm saying here today in 70, 80 years' time to still be taken as 90 years. How did that happen? 90 years' time to be taken as being absolutely right. Based on the evidence we've got, I think what we're saying now is good. Based on the evidence that Stromer had, I think that was good as well. And we've got, so this is this specimen. He collected in 1915. It went on display in Munich, and that's where it stayed. Interesting story. I'll come back to that in a moment. Here is, they are odd, they are peculiar. If you compare the limb bones of a hippopotamus with one of its closest relatives, say, I don't know, a cow, okay, the bones of a hippo are dense and heavy compared with the bones of a cow. And that's because they've evolved to overcome buoyancy because they're in the water. As their selection has selected dense, heavy bones to keep them in the water. This is on the right here. We have, this is quite good. I've got a pointer. Just this here is a typical theropod dinosaur bone, like a bird bone. You don't eat cooked chicken bones because they're hollow, they'll splinter. You don't eat giant theropod bones because they're hollow, they'll splinter. They're hollow, okay? Birds have hollow bones because they've inherited them from theropods. Spinosaurus, that is not a hollow bone. That is a dense, solid bone. Maybe it's to overcome buoyancy. They've got these teeth, like, this does work. I'm doing quite well here. We've got these pointed teeth like crocodiles and dolphins. A round pointed tooth is a classic shape for animals that eat fish. Alligators have these shaped teeth. Dolphins have these shaped teeth. Alligator gar have those shaped teeth. Alligator gar are not alligators. Alligators are fish that eat fish. Those are the best shape that evolution can give you if you have teeth for catching slippery fish. So dense, solid bones, fish-eating teeth, these are animals that are certainly related to water in one, thank you very much, certainly related to water in one shape or another. Okay, this is a lovely picture by Giulio Lacerda that shows a South American species catching pterosaurs. We do know that they did opportunistically take pterosaurs. We do know that they were eating fish. Now, let's just go back to that one just for a second. Here we go. On display in Munich. Where's Munich? Germany. 1943, sorry. What happened in Munich, 1943? Oh dear, yes. Now, good for Ernst Stromer. Ernst Stromer was not a member of the Nazi Party. Good. Unfortunately, the curator was. And the curator took everything else out of the Bavarian Museum in Munich and put it into safekeeping, except for naughty people, in Nazi people's ideas, who weren't members of the Nazi Party. So Spinosaurus stayed on display. The Royal Air Force flew across Munich in 1943, flattened it, and destroyed. Let's be honest, okay, it's not the worst thing to have happened in the Second World War. But from a paleontological point of view, it's gone. Spinosaurs gone. No more Spinosaurs. Until this gentleman. Who knows? Okay, picture if you will. Now, currently, I'm a paleontologist, okay, a paleobiologist. I'm an academic. Kind of makes sense. I'm 50. I'm a beardy, middle-aged white man. Of course, I'm an academic. I wasn't always a beardy, middle-aged white man. In 1983, I was a beardy toddler. And in 1983, I wasn't a toddler, I was 7. But in 1983, something wonderful happened. It was on Newsround, it was on all over the place, it was absolutely wonderful. I have my mother to thank, and you have my mother to thank, she's sitting in the second row, for me standing here, because she sat me down in 1979 to watch A Life on Earth with David Attenborough. But in 1983, all these wonderful things that I'd learned in Life on Earth and had retained and thought was wonderful came to be, because a new and exciting dinosaur was discovered by this man, William Walker. He was looking for fossils in the clay pit just across the way, Smokejack's Quarry, and he found this wonderful object. This is the first manual claw of Baryonyx. Wasn't called Baryonyx at the time, but when they looked at it and said, that's a really heavy claw, what does heavy claw, what's Greek for heavy claw? Baryonyx. That's where it got its name from. And all of a sudden we find it, and it's one of the most complete specimens of theropod dinosaur that exists in the world. It's an amazing specimen. I was 7 years old. I absolutely remember this on John Craven's Newsround of it being presented. It's wonderful. And it's a Spinosaur. There hasn't been any Spinosaurs known since 1943. We've now got one, and it's in Britain, and it's now, you can go and see this. It's on display up at the Natural History Museum. It's about 9 meters long. There is a human for scale. That isn't Dan Folks, but he did do the drawing. It's a remarkable specimen. It was described in 1986, and it's been described various times throughout. This animal has conical, pointed teeth, superficially like a crocodile, with this big claw for maybe hooking fish out of the water like a grizzly bear. And not only do we now suggest from its teeth that it ate fish, we know from the fossil, because there are acid-etched fish scales in the region of its stomach. And the acid etching is really important, because if it's died and washed into a river and it's sitting there in a lake and sink to the bottom, that's all one thing. And a fish could die as well and wash into the same place. But because it's acid etched fish scales, the only way they get acid etched is if they've been partially digested. So we know that this animal absolutely, definitely is eating fish. We know that it was also at least scavenging or hunting juveniles, because there's an acid etched juvenile vertebra from a juvenile iguanodon in its gut region as well. So these animals they're incredibly exciting. 1983. And then various other specimens have been found around the world. There's one called Irritator challengeri from South America, called that because it was an annoying specimen to try and work out what it. Paleontologists have a sense of humor. We've got Suchomimus from Niger. Suchomimus means crocodile mimic. We've got, we know about Spinosaurus, but we haven't got Spinosaurus anymore, thanks Bomber Harris. We've got lots of specimens, and there's lots of things popping out. And we go back to our museum collection, we find loads of teeth, loads of crocodile-like teeth all the way through. We find crocodile-like teeth from this place here. This is a remarkable place that I get to work on. It's the Isle of Wight. It says it there, so I'm not giving anything away, am I? But the wonderful thing about the island is you come into Cowes, and you drive off of the ferry and you go past Osborne House and you go along Whippingham Lane and you turn around here and then you come up, you go up to the Downs. Why are the Downs up? I can never work that out. But you go up onto the Downs, you turn over and you go literally over the unconformity. And people who are geologists know what that is. An unconformity is an exposure where the rocks aren't in the right order or the rocks are completely missing. And in this case, the rocks are completely missing. If you go east-west across the island, in the north, you're looking at rocks which are Cenozoic, about 56 to 33 million years and younger. And in the south, you've got young, recent soils, but you've got rocks which are 72 to 129 million years old. And that's where the fun stuff is. Yes, there's lots of exciting Cenozoic mammals and what have you here. Lots of good stuff, all sorts of wonderful things. Lovely insects preserved down at Bembridge, but this is where the dinosaurs are. You can't get dinosaurs here, you can get dinosaurs there. And there's a huge diversity. This is my nephew's, my cousin's son's feet. His feet are even bigger now because this was taken some time ago. This is a theropod dinosaur, long, thin toes. You can see where this footprint, where it's obviously, as it's gone into the mud, there was a rock or something because it's pushed its toe over and squished it up. And so you end up with this toe. You can see what the sort of terrain that it was walking on, walking across a muddy river plain. And every so often here's a nice foot actually in situ. Here's another ornithopod, 3 equal-sized toes, looks a bit like a leaf, a maple leaf. These are the herbivores. This one is in situ. The foot's gone into the mud. It's pulled out again, and then at some point there's been a flood event which has washed sand over that's filled up the muddy hole. The muddy hole has, the mud has turned to mudstone, the sand has turned to sandstone, the mud is softer and erodes away, and these footprints fall right out of the rock. Here we have a handprint of an iguanodon with a footprint over the top. This is upside down. The hand has gone into the mud, and if anyone who wears stilettos walking on a parquet floor will know you'll make a hole in it. Whereas if you're walking on big feet like me, you don't make such a depression. The hand has gone in, and then the rear leg has come straight over into the same place. And so you've got the handprint and the footprint above it. Filled with sand, turned to sandstone, fallen out of the cliff 125 million years later. This person's legs will become important. This is Jeremy Lockwood. He is a paleontologist on the island. He has described a number of iguanodontids in the last 6 years. What we see across the island, though, is that we come from the oldest part, about 125 million years ago. We move through an increasing marine input. So we start off with an environment like this, lots of conifer trees, lots of theropods, lots of ornithopods. We've also got thyreophorans footprints. Across the bay, across Compton Bay, we have about 300 tracks. We have those of theropods, those of ornithopods, the herbivores. We have thyreophorans, the armored dinosaurs, a bit like ankylosaurs, and we have long-necked sauropods. All of the possible things you could imagine, the footprints are there. But as time goes by, we get increasing marine input, and eventually what we find, if you go to the upper greensand and eventually the chalk, you find lobsters, you find ammonites, belemnites, and all of these marine animals. So there is a transition throughout the 129 to 72 million years ago, and so you get a progressively fewer dinosaurs through that time as well. This is why we have the dinosaurs, okay? Because flowing from ancient Cornwall, flowing out as a tributary of what will become the Rhine, flowing down from the north, we've got the Weald outwash plain. Here's Surrey. Here we've got, across this way, we've got the Wessex outwash plain. These are this line here, the Portsdown High, separates these two deposits, and so you have a drier deposit up here, still with lots of water, still with lots of forest, what have you, and a wetter deposit. They're exactly the same age, 125-ish million years, 125-ish million years. But as these rivers are flowing out, they're attracting herbivores in. Herbivores are feeding. Herbivores are dying. Theropods are coming in. They're coming in to hunt. They're also just dying in the area. And the water is bringing sediment, which is covering up the bodies really nice and quickly, which means we have got fossils of dinosaurs all the way from the south coast of the island all the way up to Maidstone. And in fact, if you look at the town shield for Maidstone, it's got an iguanodon on the shield. And we're not finding so many specimens now in Maidstone because we've done silly things like build Maidstone. And if you go into, I mean, you want to find someone that's got a lot of space to dig. So if you walk into Sainsbury's and say, I think they could be dinosaurs, they don't like you digging through the frozen aisle. Okay. The lovely thing about the southwest coast of the Isle of Wight, I mean, not if you own property, but if you don't, if you're a paleontologist like myself, it's eroding at 1 to 2 meters a year. There is a road that runs across the bottom, the military road. The original military road was put in to get in Napoleonic times to get supplies across the island in case Napoleon was coming over the water. The original military road is about here. In fact, what's really fun is if you go out, you can see there are all these electrical cables that you trip over coming out of the cliff to supply a house which would have been about what is now 50 meters off the coast. It's eroding very badly. It's not eroding in Maidstone. It's not eroding in Smokejack's Quarry, but it is being dug. So that's why baryonyx, which was fortuitously in Smokejack's Quarry, which happens to be somewhere where Smokejack was being quarried, that's why we found it. It's very lucky. But you don't tend to find things in Tadworth, okay, because it's not being dug up. But you do find things on the south coast of the island because the island is eroding. 1 to 2 meters, things are falling out onto the beach. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, we've found material here. We've found these 2 wonderful specimens. And then we've got here, this is roughly, sorry, baryonyx. So we've got 2 specimens from the island and 2 specimens from, and baryonyx as well. And so our question is, what are these animals? Are the Chiltern chine pair, because they came out, we've got these little rivulets coming out of the south coast around the island. Chiltern chine is where these animals came out. What are they? And so here we go. They're exactly the same age as baryonyx. Okay, baryonyx comes out here from the upper Weald clay. Chiltern chine pair came up out of the Wessex Formation. Same age, just the high separating the 2 deposits. But other than that, they're the same age and it's 40 miles away. These are big animals. 40 miles is no distance. Are they the same thing? And if the answer is yes, it's going to be really boring, isn't it? So we'll assume straight away that the answer is no, but I'm going to justify why. Here we are. Here's our 2 specimens. What's really nice is, okay, so all the grey stuff we have made up based on what else we have and what we know about Spinosaurs, what we know from baryonyx. What we know about Spinosaurs is that they are particularly conservative. Okay, their bodies are pretty much the same. There are small differences between one Spinosaur and another. So it's fair to say that this is probably what this one looks like, and this one would have a very similar postcranial skeleton as well. What is really, really good is we have some tail vertebrae. It's articulated we've actually got a lot more bones than this now as well. But we've got a tail from baryonyx, so we can compare and contrast directly. We've got skull material, cranial material, and rostral material from both of our specimens, and from baryonyx, and from Suchomimus. So we can compare these animals directly. If we had a tail from one and a skull from another, we can't compare and contrast. We don't know if it's a tail from a different species from the head, or if it's a head and a tail from the same species. If you've got 4 skulls, you can now look and you can now see if they're the same thing. And we've got lots of material, okay? Here is our first one. I'm going to call it Ceratopsuchops for a moment. I should have called it specimen A, but we'll go with that. And here is our second one. We've got really beautiful material. And look at that lovely tooth. It's in situ, sticking out of its jaw. Look at the carinae, look at the striations that are fluting. It's absolutely wonderful. So, We ask ourselves the question, are these things the same as baryonyx? Are they different from baryonyx? Are they the same as each other? Are they different from each other? Are they the same as Suchomimus? Are they different from Suchomimus? And so we go through and we look at all the possible lumps and bumps and shapes and things on their skulls. And we look at other dinosaur groups as well. And we look to see all of the characteristics, and don't worry about them. These are weird, very esoteric characters, but they are developed, but they are taxonomically different. They are not developmental differences. They are not variation within the taxon. What we have here is three animals, baryonyx, specimen A and specimen B. They're all 9 meters long. So we can say they're probably all the same age as well. So we're not comparing juveniles with adults. We're comparing skulls with skulls, life stages with life stages. So it's all really, we're quite positive about this. This is great. So here's our starting place. Specimen A, specimen B, and Suchomimus and baryonyx all just go together. Or, as we find out, specimen A and specimen B go together. That's not a huge surprise. They were found on the same beach. However, the top of the section, we know Ceratoseuchops, we know where that was found because it was found in the actual rock. Reparavenator was found in the actual rock. Ceratoseuchops was a specimen A, was a beach find. So we don't know where that came, but the top of the section and the bottom of the section is 4 million years. If you go back 4 million years from today, there's none of us. There's not even genus Homo. Go back 4 million years, it's not even Australopithecus, it's Ardipithecus. It's a completely different, it's 2 genuses back. 2 genera back even, sorry. So 4 million years is a very long time. We shouldn't expect necessarily that could be the same thing. And so we go through and we analyze and we can see that actually specimen A and specimen B are more closely related to Suchomimus from Africa than they are from baryonyx from Surrey. Okay, so this is all very exciting. And then we gave them names, Ceratoseuchops and Reparavenator, because they are different from one another as well. And then we ran these things through a time-calibrated phylogenetic analysis. I thought I'd have got a little bit of applause, you know, even just because it must have sounded good because no one knows what it means. No, seriously. So what we did is we ran our phylogenetic analysis, but we looked at times when fossils are appearing and to see where things came out, where characters evolved, where taxa evolved. And what we discovered was that actually Spinosaurs, got baryonychines over here and Spinosaurians over here. So the Spinosaurians tend to be found in Asia and South America and Africa, whereas we've got our baryonychines in Europe and Suchomimus in Africa as well. What we discovered was that the Spinosaurs appear in Europe and then migrate around the rest of the world and evolve into Spinosaurines. So that's quite fun. Is that all we've got? Nope. This is from the Vectis Formation. So we're just north of the Wessex now. We're still in the Wealden, but we're into the region where we're starting to get a lagoon forming, where we're starting to get the marine input into what is along the south coast of the Isle of Wight. This is about 117, 119 million years old. So we're going back, and we're jumping back another 7, 8 million years. This is huge. Okay, this is the base. This is a tail vertebra near the base of the tail. We've got we've got thoracic vertebrae. We've got other ones here. We've got some really weird spinodipophyseal webbing. There we go. Flattened rim of this one here. Oh, whoops, sorry. And spinodipophyseal webbing. These are classic features of Spinosaurs. This is really big. How big did I say Reparavenator and Ceratoseuchops and baryonyx were? 9 meters. This is at least 11. But unfortunately, this is all we've got. There's a few other bits of limb bone. We know from this that it is a Spinosaur, but we don't have any unique characters that take it beyond Spinosaurs. So while some people would say, well, it's really young and it's really massive and that's peculiar, those that would put it, you know, we could give it a new name, we could give it it probably is a new taxon, but we've been small c conservative and have not given it a name. We have got some tantalizing features with some teeth that we've found which suggest that maybe this animal, and you look at this and you can say, oh, hang on a second, why is the horizon wonky? And I contacted Anthony when I first saw this, and I said, it's just really good. I love this image that you've produced for us and has got us onto we don't know this yet, but will get us onto television in Australia. but you've got a wonky horizon, you know, everything's going to flow off down on the left. And he said, no, straighten it up. So I straightened it up, now put it back in. And what it does, this is trickery from the artist. If you have a wonky horizon, it draws your eye to this thing and makes this thing look even bigger. It's really clever. It draws your eye in. So there we go. And I'm absolutely convinced that through working with Anthony, we've got the work that we've done has had a much broader and wider interest from literally around the world, because the art is communicating. It's so much more exciting. I mean, that's nice. These are really cool. These are dinosaur bones, but this is what it looks like. And what is fun as well, and another reason why maybe it's something different, is some of our analyses. Okay, here is our Vectis formation Spinosaurid. Here is various different ways of statistically resampling the data to see what's what. Here's our Riparavenator ceratoseucops. Riparavenator ceratoseucops, they always come out here. Blah, blah, blah. This is all jolly good. In this analysis, the Vectis Spinosaurid pops out with Spinosaurine Spinosaurs, the ones from Africa and Asia and South America, which supports our argument that Spinosaurs evolve in Europe and then migrate and do all sorts of other things. It's tantalizing. This could be, it's big, it's like the Spinosaurines, it's coming out in some cases with Spinosaurines in our analyses. We haven't given it a name yet. There we go. So with Paravenator, Vectis Spinosaur, 9 meters versus 11 meters. How did they eat? Okay, this is interesting. This is fun, because these animals are now in the, they're eating fish. We know they're eating fish. Okay, we know that they're in riverine environments. We know that they're, in the case of Spinosaurs, we know that they're moving out of sort of brackish water and maybe even into marine sediment, marine environments as well. If you go to Portsmouth and you work on Spinosaurines, you'll say that they're aquatic pursuit predators. The jury is still out. But they're certainly in the marine environment and they're certainly doing exciting things. Why are these guys eating fish and T-Rex is eating other dinosaurs? So we thought, well, okay, maybe we can have a look. Maybe there's something going on in their heads. Maybe they've got special senses. Okay, their Spinosaur senses are tingling as a fish. And so we took the skulls of Baryonyx and Ceratoseucops, because Ceratoseucops is beautifully complete. Baryonyx is beautifully complete. And we generated endocasts. Now, an endocast is not the brain. An endocast is the brain plus all of the soft tissues that fill up that space in the brain case. Okay, so you can get some really good ideas about different things. You can get an idea about the size of cranial nerves and where they go in. You can get a pretty good idea of the volume, but you've got to understand that it's filling the whole cavity. It's not just the brain. It's got all the soft tissues. You can get the inner inner ear. Sorry. So the semicircular canals. This is the flocculus. This is a structure that's associated. If you look at me, keep your eyes fixed on me, then move your head to the left and the right, but keep your eyes fixed on me, and then lift your head up and down. I stay still and your head moves. Yeah, because the optics machinery, the flocculus, is talking to your balancing machinery, the semicircular canals of your ears. As long as none of you had a cheeky whiskey before you came in, you'll be fine, and you'll be able to move your heads around quite quickly and keep your eyes fixed, stabilize your vision. So this gives you a good, you can work out exactly how good or not the animal's visual stabilization is. We've got the olfactory tract up here. We've got optic bulbs, optic lobes. We've got all sorts of things we can start to measure. Here we go. There's the cranial nerve number 4, the optic nerve. We've got cranial nerve 5, the trigeminal. Can you touch your cheeks? Touch your jaw. Find another part of your head and touch that as well. Okay, that's because you've got the 3 branches of the trigeminal nerve and giving you facial sensitivity. Maybe these things have got their faces in the water. A fish comes by, snap. We know that the crocodiles have these pits along their jaws, along their faces, that allow them to sense different pressures. Okay, trigeminal nerve. We can have a look and we say, wow, that's a pretty big chunky nerve. Maybe that's the thing. Why are they eating fish? Here's the olfactory bulb of Ceratoseucops. How well could it smell? We've got our, as I say, we've got all of our semicircular canals, the inner ear. We can work out exactly what's going on. This is a 125 million year old animal. No one has ever seen it. We can work out how good its senses are. Here we go, semicircular canals, just to show you that we did all those because they took a lot of time, and I think Chris should get the acknowledgement. Okay, so then we can compare and contrast because we can CT scan lots of different dinosaurs. We can build up endocasts. We can have a look. We can see how good different animals are. We've got Majungasaurus, Allosaurus. There we go. We all know what Allosaurus is. T-Rex. So we can get our sizes. We can get our lengths of brains, what have you, relative to the size of the skull and all this sort of bit. We've got all our numbers. And it turns out that baryonyx and ceratoseucops aren't anything particularly special in the size of their brain compared with any other theropods. So what about encephalization quotient, the size of the brain relating to the size of the animal itself? If you've got a really big brain and a small body, maybe you can do lots of exciting things with your brain. If you have a big body and a small brain, maybe your brain's controlling eating, sex, and moving. If you've got a big brain and, like humans, massive brain, relatively small body, we can do lots of exciting things with our brain. Now, it turns out that ceratoseucops, baryonyx, they're nothing special. What about auditory capabilities? How well could they hear? No better than any other theropod dinosaur. Okay, how smelly was ceratoseucops' olfactory system? Can you see where this is going? Have a guess. No better than any other theropod. Okay, they're all much of a muchness. Okay, so what is it, or rather, sorry, there we go. Here we go. Here's two brains. We've got all these features. Here we've got the trigeminal nerve, the sensitive. It's no more sensitive than any other theropod dinosaur. We've looked at Neovenata. Chris looked at Neovenata, which is a theropod with a boxy skull. It's closely related to Allosaurs. It's got the same number of pits in its face as baryonyx. Baryonyx has no more. So what's going on? Actually, what it comes down to is the shape of these jaws. Because again, like crocodiles and all these other animals that eat fish, long, thin jaws. Ichthyosaurs, I forgot ichthyosaurs. They've also got long, thin jaws and pointy round teeth. They eat fish. Dolphins, long jaws, pointy teeth. It's mechanical and morphological changes in these dinosaurs which are allowing them to take advantage of fish and not some sort of superpower, which I think is really interesting and really a fascinating aspect of their lives. So we have got more Spinosaurs. We've definitely got baryonyx here. We've definitely got ceratoseucops and Rhiparovenator on the island. And we have got a fourth one, which we haven't given a name, but it's almost certainly different. Is there anything else? Well, again, if I were to then say no, that would be a bit boring. But if you go back right to the very start, I showed you that drawing of the Spinosaur teeth, and I said loads of people found crocodile teeth in the past, and they put them in a cupboard. Crocodiles. They're not. This is a single specimen from Hastings Museum. It is a lingual tooth, so it's along the side of the tongue. It's in the cheek row. Sorry. We've analysed it. We've looked at it. It has got all these characteristics. Here's the lovely carinae, front and back. Okay, you've got these flutes. The flutes we think, are to help. We're about to start some experiments to actually make teeth with flutes and make teeth without flutes and stick them into ballistic jelly and see how well they go in and out, because actually the coming out is as important as the going in, because it's no good if you take a big chunk of fish and then your jaws are all stuck together and held together with fish. That's not good. You need to be able to release it as well. So we're going to examine that and see what's going on. But the exciting thing is that these are about 135 million years old, this tooth. It's a Spinosaur. We're going back in time. The Spinosaurs, the closest relative to Spinosaurs, they are megalosaurs, so they're very closely related to Megalosaurus, which was known to run around in the Jurassic in Oxford. Then there's nothing between megalosaurs, which are your standard boxy-headed carnivorous dinosaur with blade-like teeth, and then you get Spinosaurs, and Spinosaurs are Spinosaurs. Well, we've pushed this back a bit, another 10 million years, And we've still got teeth, which are definitely Spinosaur teeth and not somewhere in between Megalosaurs and Spinosaurs. But we're at least going back in time now towards that common ancestor. And we can run it through different analyses, and what we see here, which fits very nicely with our argument that Spinosaurs evolve in Europe and then migrate around the rest of the world, is that it doesn't sit in with the Spinosaurines or the Baryonychines. It sits somewhere outside of both of them, which is kind of fun. 135 million years, we're still working this out. But then we thought we'd take it a bit further. And we thought, what other teeth are there languishing in cupboards, unloved and uncared for? And we found these 5, we chose these 5. And we've got this one, which looks superficially crocodilian. We've got this one here, which is a nice blade-like tooth of a theropod. We've got these little tiny ones. Oh, that's fun. Do you know the theropods that have little tiny... Again, we're not worried about herbivores. Just gone straight to the theropods. What has these nice little pointy teeth? Lots of them. Yeah. Now, you've said raptor. I've got a colleague who'll get very annoyed with you. Oh, raptors are a terrible bird. We can't say that because raptors are birds of prey. I love raptors. It's great. Okay, so I'm very happy. Thank you. Yes, dromaeosaurs, these small, fast-running predatory dinosaurs. Then we've got another great big tooth here. Oh, we've got all sorts of things. What are these things? So we ran some analyses. Now, I don't like AI. AI is bad. But sometimes computers can do things which you can't do. And so you let them do things quickly and then you check. And so we ran all kinds of different analyses, okay? And we worked out that we've got our morphotype 1. Here we go, hang on. Morphotype 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why did we say A, B, C, D, E? Well, because we were explaining what they were to start with. But morphotype 1 comes out as a Spinosaur, but not a Spinosaur that we have ever seen before. We've got morphotype 2 down here, which comes out along with all of these lovely animals leading to Spinosaur, to Tyrannosaurs. This is from Bexhill, by the way. Bexhill, Wadhurst Clay. These are all British dinosaurs. Okay, we're not having to go to anywhere exotic to find this. This is all stuff which is around here. We've got morphotype 3 and morphotype 4, which come out down here with velociraptorine dromaeosaurs. Hooray, this is good. We've got some that are in the Natural History Museum, some in Bexhill. And where's our last one? We've got up here, we've got another morphotype 4, which comes out up here with more of our different theropods. So we don't know what that theropod is, but we've got a Tyrannosaur, velociraptorine, dromaeosaurs, we've got Spinosaur and some other theropod. And so this is the environment that we could expected to see about 135 million years ago in this very region. Hugely diverse population of dinosaurs. Now, what's really nice is that we've just looked at the theropods. We know that however many carnivores you have in a system, you've got to have even more herbivores underneath for them to eat. So not just numbers, but you've got to have different types of herbivore as well, because you've got different types of theropod. They're clearly adapted to different types of prey. And one of the things, I showed you his legs earlier on, I'll show you the rest of him later on with the acknowledgements, but Jeremy Lockwood, who is an incredibly good friend of mine, he's a retired GP, has recently got his PhD. He works on herbivores, the iguanodontids from the island. He has published 3. I'm going to say published because there may be more, but he's published 3 new iguanodontids from the island. Makes sense. If you've got this huge theropod diversity, of course you've got this huge diversity of ornithopods as well for them to eat. And there's almost guaranteed to be a huge diversity of other thyreophorans, other sauropods, all these other exciting dinosaurs which make good meals. I think this is wonderful. Okay, what an incredible place we are living in. So to sum up, I have got a few more things, so don't bear with me, okay? But to sum up, Spinosaurs remain incredibly controversial in their life habits, okay? I don't think that they are aquatic pursuit predators. People have done very good analyses of the density of their limb bones, but then the sort of pneumaticity of the rest of them. and their analyses will have them popping up onto their sides and flopping onto their, big old sail flopping over. That is not a good pose to be in if you're trying to hunt down a 2-meter coelacanth. But maybe they did as well. I'm not, that's one analysis. Other analyses come up with different things. We have to do, balance of evidence, as it were. We've got at least 3 Spinosaurs on the Isle of Wight, but watch this space because I have a student who's working on something else exciting. Mechanics of the jaws, not sensory abilities, made them able to exploit a piscivorous diet. Okay, haven't used piscivorous before, just been eating fish. I'm a scientist, we have to have big words. The UK and everywhere else as well has a hidden diversity of dinosaurs generally, and in our case, Spinosaurs specifically, which I think is really exciting. This is really fun. In the last 6 years, and I've overestimated this, I've said 10 kilometers of eroding coastline. I think it's close to 5 or 6. In the last 6 years, we have had 10 new species out of the Isle of Wight. Now, if you go to North America, go to Montana, go to China, go to anywhere where people are exploring the continent, they're pulling out a lot more dinosaurs. On average, there is a new dinosaur species described every single week. But we are talking about China. We are talking about continental North America. And here we're talking about less than 10 kilometers of eroding coastline. The Isle of Wight is an absolute hotspot. I would love to come back in 50,000 years because it's about 10 kilometers, 2 kilometers a year, 2 meters a year. It's gone in 10. But then we can start eroding the rest of the south coast and we can start moving up into, yes, come on, let's invent a time machine, physicists, do something useful. You keep telling me that your science is better than my science. Make me a time machine. I don't need to go back into the past. I'll go into the future and find more dinosaurs that way. It's safer that way as well. If they're fossils, they're not eating you. We've all seen Jurassic Park. So, I want to play a game. Here we go. This is the traditional view of dinosaurs before 2017. Ornithischians over here, sauropods and theropods as a sister clade, and we've got things like T-Rex, megalosaurs, blah, 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 and Herarosaurs. Okay, these are down here. These were put together. And then along came Barron et al. In 2017, and they threw a spanner in the works. And what they said was, actually, Ornithischians, the bird-hip dinosaurs, that don't give rise to birds, and the theropod dinosaurs that do give rise to birds are more closely related to each other in a clade called Ornithoscelida, and the Sauropodomorpha and the Herarosauridae are Saurischians in a clade over here. Originally, these were together because these are both hypercarnivores, and people said you can't have things that are complex and difficult, evolving lots of times, lump them together. Of course, you can have things evolving lots of times. It's just more difficult to model. But anyway, they did it and they put them over here, split them over there. So this is one model. But as you know, paleontologists are notoriously argumentative and it still isn't completely accepted. So here is our model, though. We'll use this for the time being. I want to talk to you about birds. Okay, whatever our model is, here is our groupings, our classical groupings. Here we've got crocodiles as the sister taxon to Ornithodira, which is dinosaurs plus pterosaurs. Extinct, 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 alive. You can still have extinct things in a crown group. We use trees as a way of working things out. So this is a tree, this is the stem, this is the crown. This is also the crown. This whole thing is the crown of archosaurs, crocodiles, plus all of this is archosaurs. But when we go down to here, now we've got the stem leading to birds. Okay, are pterosaurs birds? No. Are long-necked sauropod dinosaurs birds? Are theropods birds? Some of them. Okay, using our tree analogy. Okay, so in the 1960s, Willy Hennig, who was known in Germany and wrote in German, published his work he published it in the 1960s, cladistics, these ideas of, wow, now how we're putting things together, not by using evolutionary characteristics which pull things into groups based on evolution, based on their shared common ancestry. In the past, Linnaean classification in general pulls things into groups that in general work out pretty well. But you can get groups which are plonked together because they share a characteristic, but they developed that. For example, you could have birds and bats. They both got wings. You end up putting birds and bats together. Obviously, we haven't. We've got mammals and birds, but you see where I'm going with this. A Linnaean classification could put things with homoplasy, shared characteristics based on the environment that is a useful thing for their ecology, rather than they've got a characteristic because of evolution. Hennigian cladistics puts things together, and he comes up with some new ideas. And this is where the whole tree analogy comes from. So this is a common ancestor, and this is an outgroup. Crocodiles. Crocodiles are they the outgroup, sorry, because they're not in the in-group. Okay? We've got a crown up the top. This is the last common ancestor, and all of the things which are still alive. Some things might be extinct within the crown, but it's bracketed, the last common ancestor and a living group, and some might be extinct. We could have a dodo here, I suppose. Then you've got, because it's a tree analogy, we've got this stem as well. All of these things are extinct. Okay? So we've got our stem and our crown, and the stem and the crown make the total group. Are pterosaurs birds? No. Are sauropods birds? No. Good, good, good. This is good. You're all listening. This is nice. So there we go. Here's all our groups now. Okay. So we've got our crown group, aves, birds. Therapod. Oh no. Hennigian cladistics has confused the whole issue, because now our total group, the names are based on living taxa. So our total group can't be dinosaurs. It's got to be based on what the crown is. All the things from the last common ancestor between crocodiles and living birds that are closer to birds by Hennigian cladistics are birds. So now, all that I told you, pterosaurs aren't birds, sauropods aren't birds, theropods aren't birds, they are in the total group aves. They are total group birds from the point of view of cladistics. Thank you, Willy Hennig. But it does mean that we have to change some general terminology as well. Alan Grant, wonderful film. My mum took me to see it in 1993. She screamed, not at the dinosaurs, but as the Jeep went over our heads. And it was kind of scary, but being eaten from the toilet, I think, was more scary if you were there. Anyway, so Alan Grant gets very, they are moving in herds. They do move in herds. No! They are the collective group. For a group of birds is a flock, so they move in flocks. Right. That really is me for what I was going to talk about. This is my lab. These are the people who've done vast amounts of the work. Chris Barker is an absolute legend. He is absolutely wonderful. He has his PhD now. He's currently working in a school library because of the state of the higher education system. Eventually, I'm working as much as I can to get him back into doing some research. Darren Naish, if you've seen Prehistoric Planet, it's worth the £5.99 a month for Apple TV to watch Prehistoric Planet. It's a BBC Studios production funded by Apple TV, produced by Jon Favreau of Marvel and Star Wars fame. It is the best dinosaur documentary I have ever seen. The CG is so good, it looks like you are watching an Attenborough documentary. And you are, because Attenborough is narrating the dinosaur ones. Absolutely brilliant. Darren lives in Southampton as well, and I work very closely with him. Jeremy Lockwood, this is his kitchen table. These are genuine, real fossils of iguanodons. And Martin Munt, who was until very recently the curator at Dinosaur Isle. I wouldn't have been able to do anything that I do without his help and support.